What most people are watching right now is being misinterpreted as fear. But what is actually unfolding inside the commodity markets is a calculated redistribution of ownership. The greatest transfer of wealth does not announce itself with clarity. It hides inside volatility, disguises itself as panic, and pressures the least informed participants to exit positions at precisely the moment long-term capital begins stepping in. It is Thursday, January 8th, 2026, and global financial markets are moving through a liquidity-driven event that has nothing to do with collapsing fundamentals. This is a structural phenomenon rooted in market mechanics rather than value destruction. As this narration is recorded, silver is being subjected to a violent but technical adjustment phase that is shaking retail confidence, while institutional participants remain calm and patient. Only days ago, silver completed a historic surge that carried prices to $83.62. That rally ended with record closes on January 6th, just 48 hours earlier. What followed was not a surprise to professional analysts. After such a parabolic advance, a cooling phase becomes mathematically unavoidable. At this moment, the silver spot price is hovering near $75.62, reflecting a decline of $2.25 from recent highs. That single session move represents a 2.9% drop, a figure that feels dramatic to inexperienced traders but is considered routine within high volatility commodity cycles. To trained professionals, this type of movement signals opportunity rather than danger. The decline is not being driven by weakening demand, nor is it the result of excess physical supply entering the market. The true driver is far more mechanical. Each year, major commodity indices undergo mandatory portfolio rebalancing. Because silver gained more than 160% throughout 2027, it became disproportionately large within these indices. When an asset exceeds its allocated weight, passive funds are required to reduce exposure regardless of outlook. The most influential benchmark in this process is the Standard & Poor's GSCI, an index that tracks 24 commodities and controls the flow of billions of dollars in passive investment capital. Funds tracking this index do not exercise judgment. They execute formulas. When limits are breached, selling becomes compulsory. This creates a paradox where the strongest performing asset is penalized precisely because it outperformed. According to estimates from TD Securities, approximately 13% of total open interest in COMEX silver contracts must be sold over the next 2 weeks. This represents a massive volume of paper contracts being forced onto the market without any reference to underlying economic conditions. This is not a crash rooted in negative macro data. It is a reset engineered by rules. The contracts being sold represent synthetic exposure, not physical metal being removed from vaults. That distinction is critical and frequently misunderstood during periods of sharp volatility. Institutional capital understands this dynamic clearly. Rather than reacting, smart money is waiting. While silver absorbs the bulk of selling pressure, gold remains remarkably stable. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a topic that I think is incredibly important, but often overlooked: the subtle art of listening. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Listening? I listen all the time. And you're right, we do. We listen to podcasts, to music, to the news, to our friends and family. But are we truly hearing what's being said? Or are we just waiting for our turn to speak? There's a huge difference, and mastering that difference can genuinely transform your relationships, your career, and even your relationship with yourself. Let's start with a simple question. What does it mean to be a good listener? It's not just about staying quiet while someone else talks. That's passive hearing. Active listening is a skill. It's an engaged process where you make a conscious effort to hear not only the words another person is saying, but, more importantly, the complete message being communicated. It means paying attention to their tone of voice, their body language, the pauses they take. It's about understanding the emotion and the intent behind the words. Think about the last time you had a really great conversation. What made it great? I'm willing to bet it was because you felt heard, you felt understood. The other person wasn't just nodding along, they were present with you. They were asking thoughtful questions, reflecting back what you said and showing genuine curiosity. That's the power of active listening. It creates a space of trust and connection. When people feel truly heard, they open up. They share more honestly, and the conversation deepens from a superficial exchange to a meaningful dialogue. So, how do we become better active listeners? It starts with intention. Before you go into a conversation, especially an important one, set the intention to listen. Put your phone away. Seriously, put it on silent and out of sight. That little screen is one of the biggest barriers to genuine connection in our modern world. Make eye contact. This simple act signals that you are focused and present. It tells the other person, you have my full attention. Next, practice holding back your own thoughts and solutions. This is a tough one for many of us. We're natural problem solvers. When a friend comes to us with an issue, our immediate instinct is to jump in with advice. "Oh, you should do this," or "Have you tried that?" But often people don't need a solution. They need a sounding board. They need to process their feelings out loud. Your job as a listener isn't to fix their problem. It's to provide a safe space for them to explore it. By simply listening without judgment and without an agenda, you're giving them a powerful gift. A great technique to use is reflective listening. This involves paraphrasing what the other person has said to confirm your understanding. It can be as simple as saying, "So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're feeling overwhelmed because your workload has doubled, but your deadlines haven't changed?" This does two things. First, it shows the person that you are genuinely trying to understand their perspective. Second, it gives them a chance to clarify if you've misunderstood anything. It's not about repeating their words like a parrot, but about capturing the essence of what they've shared in your own words. Another powerful tool is asking open-ended questions. These are questions that can't be answered with a simple yes or no. Instead of asking, "Was your day good?" try asking, "What was the most interesting part of your day?" Questions that start with what, how, or tell me more about encourage the other person to elaborate and share more details. This turns a simple Q&A into a rich, exploratory conversation. It shows that you're not just checking a box. You're genuinely curious to learn more about their experience. Now, let's talk about the nonverbal side of listening. Our bodies communicate just as much as our words do, if not more. Leaning in slightly, nodding your head, and maintaining an open posture, uncrossing your arms and legs, all signal engagement and receptiveness. Your facial expressions also play a key role. A look of concern, a smile of encouragement, or a furrowed brow of concentration can all validate the speaker's feelings and make them feel more comfortable sharing. Conversely, looking at the clock, fidgeting, or letting your eyes wander sends a clear message that you're disinterested or distracted. Be mindful of the silent messages you're sending. The benefits of mastering this skill are immense. In your personal life, active listening builds stronger, more intimate relationships. Your partner, your friends, and your family will feel more valued and respected. Misunderstandings and conflicts will decrease because you're both working from a place of genuine understanding rather than assumption. Imagine having fewer arguments that start with, "You never listen to me," and more conversations that end with both of you feeling connected and on the same page. In the professional world, the impact is just as profound. Great leaders are almost always great listeners. They listen to their team's ideas, concerns, and feedback. This fosters a culture of trust and collaboration, which leads to higher morale and better performance. In sales and customer service, listening is everything. You can't meet a client's needs if you don't first understand what those needs are. By listening carefully, you can identify pain points and offer solutions that truly resonate, building long-term customer loyalty. Even in a job interview, demonstrating strong listening skills by thoughtfully answering questions and referring back to things the interviewer said can set you apart from other candidates. But what about listening to ourselves? This is a part of the equation we often forget. How often do you take the time to check in with yourself, to listen to your own thoughts and feelings without judgment? Our inner voice is constantly giving us feedback. It tells us when we're tired, when we're stressed, when something feels right, or when something feels off. But in the hustle and bustle of daily life, we often drown out that inner voice with noise and distractions. Practicing self-listening can be as simple as taking a few minutes each day for quiet reflection. You could try journaling, meditation, or just going for a walk in nature without your headphones. The goal is to create a space where you can hear your own inner dialogue. What are you worrying about? What are you excited about? What does your body need? Acknowledging these internal signals is the first step toward better self-care and more intentional living. When you're in tune with yourself, you're better equipped to navigate challenges, make decisions that align with your values, and show up as your best self for others. So, to recap, becoming a better listener is a journey, not a destination. It's a skill that requires conscious practice. Start by setting the intention to listen, put away distractions, and be present. Focus on understanding, not on replying. Use techniques like reflective listening and asking open-ended questions to deepen the conversation. Pay attention to your nonverbal cues, and don't forget to practice listening to your own inner voice. I challenge you this week to pick one of these techniques and focus on it. Maybe you'll decide to put your phone away during every dinner conversation, or perhaps you will practice asking how and what questions instead of yes or no questions. Start small. Notice the difference it makes. You might be surprised by how much more you learn about the people around you and about yourself. The world is full of amazing stories, insights, and emotions, but we can only access them if we're willing to truly listen. Thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope this gave you some valuable food for thought. If you found this helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more content on personal growth and communication. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What's one thing you're going to do this week to become a better listener? Let's continue the conversation down below. Until next time, take care and keep listening. When governments demonstrate a willingness to use force to secure commodities, the risk profile of fiat currency changes fundamentally. In a world where tankers are seized and nations are openly threatened, the portability and anonymity of precious metals become increasingly valuable. This geopolitical safety net explains why silver has not collapsed below $70 despite the scale of the forced selling. There remains a persistent bid beneath the market from entities seeking protection against escalating conflict and systemic instability. The convergence of Venezuelan energy disruption, Colombian political risk, and Greenland's mineral potential creates a perfect storm for tangible assets. Investors are increasingly recognizing that owning physical commodities offers greater security than holding paper claims dependent on geopolitical stability. This realization forms a price floor beneath the market, ensuring that mechanically driven weakness is met with determined accumulation by participants focused on long-term preservation of value. The selling pressure may dominate headlines, but the underlying demand continues to build quietly. As attention shifts beyond the immediate volatility surrounding January 8th, the deeper structural forces shaping silver's trajectory come into clearer focus. What initially appears as instability is, in reality, a consolidation phase driven by mechanics rather than deteriorating fundamentals. The gold-to-silver ratio, now hovering near 58:1, remains historically elevated when compared to the geological abundance ratio of roughly 8:1. This discrepancy continues to signal that silver remains undervalued relative to gold, even after the extraordinary gains recorded throughout 2025. For the ratio to normalize toward its long-term average near 30:1, silver prices would need to nearly double if gold were to remain unchanged. However, gold is not stagnant. With prices holding steadily above $4,400, silver remains tethered to a powerful monetary undertow. Monetary demand has not weakened, and industrial demand remains resilient despite short-term fluctuations in paper pricing. One of the most persistent sources of industrial demand comes from the solar energy sector. Photovoltaic manufacturing continues to consume close to 30% of annual mined silver supply. This figure is expected to rise as efficiency requirements increase and newer panel designs prioritize higher conductivity. Advanced solar technologies require greater silver content per unit, further tightening an already constrained physical market. In parallel, the electric vehicle industry is transitioning towards solid-state battery systems. Many of these next-generation batteries rely on silver carbon composites to enhance performance, safety, and durability. This evolving demand profile is colliding with monetary accumulation driven by global instability, creating a dual pressure on physical supply. The current price level around 75.62 represents a contested zone between a backward-looking paper market and a forward-looking physical market. Short sellers may find temporary relief during mechanically induced pullbacks, but they remain vulnerable to sharp reversals if physical inventories tighten further. The 13% reduction in open interest driven by index rebalancing will eventually be absorbed, removing the artificial selling pressure currently weighing on prices. Once that overhang clears, the path of least resistance for silver is likely to shift higher, with the psychologically significant $100 level emerging as a natural target. Investors must separate price, which is influenced by leverage and algorithmic flows, from value, which is dictated by scarcity and real-world utility. The seizure of Russian-flagged assets signals a deeper fracture in the global financial system, potentially accelerating the gradual movement away from dollar-centric trade structures. Silver may reassert its historical role as a neutral settlement medium for international commerce. The United States' renewed focus on Greenland reflects an acknowledgement that critical minerals are the strategic resources of the 21st century. Silver AS status as the most conductive metal known makes it indispensable in the electronics that underpin modern civilization. Investors who exit positions in response to mechanical selling are effectively transferring ownership to participants who understand long-duration cycles. What mainstream coverage often overlooks is the continued drawdown of physical inventories in major storage hubs such as London and New York. Physical silver continues to move quietly from Western exchanges into private and Eastern vaults. This divergence between paper pricing and physical reality cannot persist indefinitely. Eventually, the market must reconcile at a level that reflects genuine supply constraints rather than synthetic liquidity flows. The journey toward $100 silver is unlikely to be linear. It will be marked by volatility specifically designed to shake out weak conviction and reward disciplined positioning. Market attention will likely return to the inflationary pressures and geopolitical risks that originally ignited the rally. The recent pullback is a function of market structure, not deteriorating sentiment, and certainly not a reflection of diminished intrinsic value. It is defined by a finite resource trading within an environment of limitless liquidity creation and escalating geopolitical tension. Investors who remain focused on underlying data rather than algorithmic noise are better positioned to understand the true direction of the market.